Hello everybody, how are you? No, seriously, how are you? Post in the comments. David Franco here from TechSocial.com. Obviously, it's my channel. I've been here for over 5 years now, and I'm loving it. Anyway, with that weird intro aside, I am here to give you my 5 reasons of why I have decided to sell the Kindle Fire. Now, first of all, let me start by saying the Kindle Fire is not a bad device for the price point, but compared to the user experience that I'm already used to since 2007, iPhone, what was that? It's just not up to my quality standards. Alright, let's start with number 1. First of all, it is the operating system. It is running Android Gingerbread 2.3 as far as I'm aware, and as you guys know, I'm not the biggest fan of Android, but at the $200 price point, I'd be an idiot to not give it a try. So, with that said, how do I feel? Well, how do I put this simply? It's Android. I'm sorry, guys. I have dissed Android in the past. I admit it. I fully admit to it. I'm not a coward. I will admit to it. But I put down Android for this very reason. Look at this. Look how sluggish it is. I can't deal with the user experience like this. I can't deal with it. And yes, I realize it's a $200 tablet, David. You gotta give it some leeway and stuff like that. No. The original iPhone came out in 2007, and it was much smoother than this. In 2007. So the fact that the iPhone could do it much smoother that long ago, and the Kindle Fire can't in 2011, there's a problem there, guys. There's a problem. Now, I will say there are certain elements of this custom skin of Android for the Kindle Fire that are nice. For instance, this cover flow view, very smooth. But the rebuild functionality, when you rotate, unacceptable. I'm sorry, that's just unacceptable. It even starts at the lock screen. Why do you swipe from right to left? It doesn't make sense. And not only that, but even the swipe is kind of laggy. You see that? That shouldn't be there. And I don't want to make it look like I'm being too picky, because I'm not. It's all about the user experience. Like I was telling my friend Kyle 2 days ago or whatever. Touch is a very personal experience. When you're using a mouse, you kind of expect things to be a little slower because maybe you're used to it. But when you're touching something, such as when I'm pushing my iPhone right now, it's instant. But when you touch something on the screen, it should be the same exact experience. And that's how it is on the iPod Touch, iPhone, and iPad. Yes, I realize this is not a direct iPad competitor, but for those budget-conscious consumers, this is definitely going to be an option over the iPad for those specific people. Anyway, let's load up TechSocial.com, and I'll give you another great example of why I'm not a big fan of the Android operating system on here. Yes, I realize Android might be smoother on other devices, but it doesn't come down to specs. It all comes down to optimization. Optimize your software, Amazon. You gotta optimize it. Anyway, here's TechSocial.com, my website. Now, you see what I mean? Why is it pinch and zoom like that? There's really no excuse for that. I'm sorry, I just had to rant there. I didn't expect to take that long on number 1, but anyway, there it is. Alright, number 2, and yes, I have notes over here just so I don't forget. Number 2 is the user interface. It's nice, but it's not really what I prefer. This isn't necessarily a con against the Kindle Fire. This is more of a personal preference. First of all, the odd app organization. I realize the Kindle Fire is meant to be a media consumption device through, Amazon Prime and everything, which I am a member of. I pay that yearly fee for the faster shipping and all the media access. But I don't like this. I mean, it was cool at first, but I don't like seeing all of my recently opened apps and web pages right there. Well, I shouldn't say all web pages. Only the first one's a web page, I think. But you get my point. I mean, why would I want to scroll through all those? And yes, I realize you have your favorites down here, but even favorites to me feels half-assed. It doesn't feel like they took a lot of time for it. I will say this bar up here is very nice when it actually works. I say when it actually works because sometimes I will tap something and it doesn't pop up. Now, that time it did, obviously, because I'm making a video. It just happens to work. But believe me, there have been times where I tap web and apps and I had to tap it a second time. You shouldn't have to do that on a touch user interface. Everything should just work. Number 3 is definitely a con against the hardware, and that is it warms up too quickly. Now I know why Amazon called it the Kindle Fire, because it literally burns up in your hands. Okay, maybe that's a bit sarcastic, but guys, I'm being somewhat serious here. The Kindle Fire, even right now, I can feel it warming up. That shouldn't be the case. I realize it's a smaller device, less room for components. Maybe it's because they choose a matte finish on the back and heat kind of transfers through that easier. But the same can be said for metal. But the point is, this thing does get warm a little too quickly, and for me personally, that can get annoying now and then. Number 4 is App Store fragmentation. Now, I realize the Kindle Fire does have specific apps for, well, the Kindle Fire, such as Angry Birds, which runs beautifully, by the way. I love the widescreen format. But there are barely any Kindle Fire exclusive apps. And if you want other apps, you have to go into the Android Marketplace, is that what they call it? Which I gotta admit is nice. They have more apps than I thought they would in terms of customizing. But for the Kindle Fire, there's only so much you can do with those apps. 80% of the apps I've used on here are meant for Android phones. Now, I realize the same can be said for the iPad, but at least the iPhone and the iPad experience are very similar. But when you run an Android-specific app on the Kindle Fire, it doesn't feel Kindle Fire-ish, if that makes sense. It's just, at least when you're running an iPhone app on the iPad, it feels right because the iPhone and iPad are basically the same OS. But when you're running a clunky old Android app on here with its very blah interface, it doesn't feel modern to me. It feels like I'm using something from like the late 90s. Let me reiterate, it is nice having access to all these apps, but when most of the apps look like shit, I'm sorry, that transfers to a bad user experience. And finally, the 5th reason why I'm selling the Kindle Fire, I simply don't need it. I know you guys could have called this like a week ago, which I agree with. But again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm a tech reviewer. I like getting my hands on this stuff just to make videos on it. Then who cares? I'll sell it. So this thing will be on eBay within a few weeks, just in time for the holiday rush. Hey, don't give me that look. Hey, come on, you blame me? I'm trying to take advantage of this, trying to get most of my money back. At least I'm honest. But I'm just very happy with the iPad 2 and iPhone 4S, and overall, I just simply don't need this. And those are my 5 reasons of why I'm selling my Kindle Fire. Again, I gotta reinforce this, guys. Kindle Fire is not a bad device for $200, but in today's day and age, in 2011 versus 2007, this should be a much smoother interface. And I realize I'm gonna get some people saying, "Oh, David, you're way too picky. You're an iOS fanboy." While some of that may be true, I'm kind of an iOS fanboy. And no, I'm not saying Apple fanboy. I'm saying iOS fanboy. I'm somewhat of an iOS fanboy because Apple just does it right. While Android may be ahead in certain features or whatever, because I know people are going to say, "Oh, iOS 5 copied Android." Get over it. It all comes down to the user experience, how fluid everything is, and how responsive, again, the touchscreen is. A touchscreen should be instant. You shouldn't have to press something and it loads in like pieces. Did you see that? Again, when you rotate, why does it have to do that? Why can't it just simply do a smooth rotation animation? I don't understand. Alright, that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you buy a Kindle Fire? Are you loving it? Are you still planning to buy one after this review? Or do you prefer Nook's tablet rendition? Or do you just simply prefer an iPad like I do? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Check out my social media links below, and have a great Thanksgiving.